Hello, everybody. I'm Sean's Mapping or the Sultanate Empire, and in today's video, we are going to be continuing What If the Cold War Did Not End? Or What If the Soviet Union Never Died? Blah, blah, blah. Basically, what if the Soviet Union continued on into the 21st century? Essentially. Now, the year is currently the late 90s. It is the late 90s. It is currently, I would say, probably 1995. The war started in 1993, so it's been going on for about 2 to 3 years now. Um, and I would just like to say I will be starting to upload gaming videos on my channel. What kind of games? You'll just have to stick around and find out to see what kind of games I upload. And if you like it, I'll create a series off of it. If you don't, I won't. You know, kind of stuff like that, basically. Um, anyways, let's go ahead and get into today's video. In today's video, we are going to focus in on the war, but we're going to kind of focus in over here in the Middle Eastern area. As we can see, the Turkish and also the Iraqis have essentially drawn up a peace, like a treaty with the Kurds. The Turks were forced to, the Iraqis did because, well, they're fighting Turkish forces now as well, and they don't really want to ruin their relation with Turkey. That's a lie. They just don't want to be fighting a force that's stronger than them and lose possibly a lot more land than they need to. So they gave the Kurds what they, uh, primarily most of what they had and what they wanted now, because if they kept pushing and took even more land, they would probably want even more. Meanwhile, also, Turkey concedes over land that the US told to give over to the Kurds, which makes their border smaller with the Soviets, which is actually good because now that's not a they can build defensive lines better there, but the Kurds have one massive one. So the Turks are honestly probably building defensive lines all across their borders with the Kurds and also the Soviets. Would not surprise me if that's what they were doing, in all honesty. And also, you may notice the Kurds are no longer three separate rebellions. The US has unified them into a proper unified governmental force, instead of operating as three separate rebellions working in close tandem with each other, essentially. Essentially, that's what's going on here. Now that we're done with this front, let us go ahead and move over to a more interesting front, which is over here in the beautiful, beautiful European theater of the Cold War gone hot. Now, many things did happen leading up to this war, like, for example, a German communist rebellion in West Germany, which was eventually crushed, but East German troops were killed inside of a rebel warehouse, and this is how this war started. Now, East German forces alongside Soviet forces are pushing very heartily against West German defenders, and West Germany is most certainly starting to slowly collapse over here. Now, the Swiss, just like how they were in real life, are doing Swiss things and minding their own damn business. They are also beginning to, how does one put this? They are, um, they're making money off of both sides. They're not communists and they're not, well, they are democratic, but they're not aligned with the US, essentially. But after about 6 months of fighting, the Soviets are able to greatly, greatly push back German defenders, and West Germany has all but fallen at this point. West Germany has all but fallen, and it is known as the fastest German country to ever fall in German history. Because, mind you, this war started in 1993. It is 1995. This country held out for 3 years, 3 to 2 years, and then started to collapse once the Soviets properly were getting involved. And speaking of collapsing, Slovenia over here, or well, Croatia, I guess, is being pushed back alongside the Italians. The Soviets have arrived in full force. Now you may be wondering, where oh where is the US of A? They are busy. Busy doing what, you may be asking? Well, they are sending friendly forces over here. US troops are starting to arrive within France, but it's not as many as Europe would like. Because if we just jump over to a separate area of the world, an area where a certain big communist party of a certain big country that doesn't like America to this day and still exists has just declared war on their Asian allies. Let's get on over there right now and see what in the world is going on. And alrighty, here we are over in Asia, and as you look at the map, you can clearly see that some things are very wrong. And that is that China, the Communist Party of China, and Mao's party has declared war on the US Asian allies, noting that the US must focus their forces on stopping the Soviets from taking over Europe. But thankfully, the US has a big enough military and is prepared enough for it to um split their forces 50-50. 50 per 50% of it goes to Europe, the other 50% goes over to Asia. And which basically means the US Army goes over to Europe since land fighting. US Marines goes over to Asia. A lot of islands there, a lot of island hopping, a lot of naval invasions that need to be done. But, each branch is still sending a portion of them, with the other. So like some marine forces are going with the army, some army forces are going with the marines, yada yada yada. Now, as we can see, North Vietnam has re-began their invasion of South Vietnam after a ceasefire and non-aggression agreement for a couple of years was broken. We see Laos, I do believe this is Laos, communist Laos, which is aligned with China, invading into this country right over here, which is, I believe, a second Laos. Then we also see Chinese forces invading into the northern parts of the Philippines, trying to move down towards Manila. Towards Manila. And here we see English. English is hard. It may be my first language, but it's hard. Okay, English hard. Um, we see North Korea. I almost said Vietnam. Lord have mercy. My brain and English is non-existent. We see North Korea invading into South Korea after breaking their non-aggression and ceasefire agreement. Now, thankfully, Australia and Japan are both in the alliance, which does mean they will be sending aid and support to their smaller country friends. Australia and Japan will be the primary backbones of this operation until Mexican and American forces arrive. Yes, if you did not see the alliances, Mexico is within NATO because in this world, Mexico and the US maintained good relations due to the US winning in the Vietnam front and not having protest in their streets. They helped Mexico get rid of primary cartel groups and big boy problems with their country. So Mexico is, in fact, inside of the alliance. Like so. Canadian troops are moving. Canadian and Greenland troops are moving towards. Well, I mean, I guess Greenland is just Denmark, but you know what I mean. Troops are moving down here into Europe alongside Canadian troops. Meanwhile, also like 50% of some American troops are going there as well. Meanwhile, Mexico and America move their troops over to Asia to assist their Australian and Japanese counterparts. Speaking of Australian and Japanese oh, and also their New Zealand counterpart. You can't forget about New Zealand. Okay, you can't forget about beautiful New Zealand down here. You cannot forget about New Zealand. Thanks to the island of Guam, which is a territory held by the United States of America to this day within the uh, Pacific Ocean. It is a beautiful island, definitely better than Hawaii. Um, and it is essentially a U.S. military base with a airfield and a naval base stationed on the island. Guam was captured and taken over by the Japanese during World War II. Atrocities were committed by the Japanese during World War II on this island. Um, and the US were eventually able to successfully take it back with help from the local population. And they are essentially going to try and use that island, Guam, and push into basically use it as a main operating base to launch operations into China and the rest of Asia. As Guam is one of their only Pacific colonies besides the rest of the Marianas Islands. And yes, it is known as the Marianas Islands because you may know the deepest trench in the world, the Marianas Trench, was named after our islands. I say our islands, but is it really my islands? Is it really? It's Guam's islands. It's the Marianas. I don't know why I said ours. It's not like I live there. For those of you who know, you know. If you don't know, keep on thinking. But the Marianas Islands are there. They exist. There's quite a few of them. Guam is the biggest one out of them, and the Marianas Trench was named after them since it is directly next to them. Anyways, enough of my blabbering because I've been blabbering for like 6 hours. Time to get into the fighting. Chinese forces pushed down into North Korea for starters, but Japanese forces are forced to redirect their focus from invading the Soviet Union to dealing with the uh, Chinese threat. And that is exactly what they do. They begin to invade into the Chinese right over here along this fault line. Oh, excuse me, just had to burp. Um, and it goes just like so, fairly well. Not that bad, not that bad. However, the Chinese do put up a good defense against them, and this war kind of seems like it's gonna drag on for a really long while. And honestly, that's no bueno. Nobody wants this war to drag on for a long, long time. But the Chinese get pushed back out of that area, right over there. Meanwhile, defensive lines are constructed in South Korea and South Vietnam and the Philippines, but Laos may be a lost cause. Meanwhile, India's looking at this and, well, they may or may not take advantage of it because, well, they want Bangladesh and Pakistan. So we'll see where that takes them. But let us go ahead and just slide over to, basically over to Iran if paint.net will let me move. Thank you, paint.net. Thank you, paint.net. I love you, paint.net. Sometimes I question why paint.net is how it is, and I question why it likes to rage bait me because it rage baits me quite often. Now, meanwhile, the Kurds and the Turks continue to hold defensive lines against the Soviets since the Soviets aren't really primarily focusing on them. They're primarily trying to secure Europe before they focus on anywhere else, like properly. So the Turks and also the Kurds are just essentially pushing against the Iranis, sorry, the Iranians, just like so. And we will also see the Soviets continue to push back against Western aligned forces as we see the Soviets push back and reclaim Bulgaria. Well, slowly but surely. They're reclaiming Bulgaria. Just like so. That is due to the fact that the Turks are forced to split their forces in two to help the Kurds over with Iran and holding a defensive line against the Soviets. Meanwhile, the Greeks are kind of left over here with minimal support and they're all on their own. Like the Italians are helping them, but the Italians are primarily focusing on holding off the Soviets in Croatia and also in Germany and France to prevent them from doing any bad things. Now, the Soviets are going to do something not so good. Who cares? They don't care if anyone likes them. They're the Soviet Union. They don't give two flips. I was gonna say the F word, but I don't want YouTube to age restrict my my video. So flips, they don't give two flips about anything. So the Czech Republic, or well, the Communist Party of Czechia, begins their invasion of well, beautiful, beautiful Austria over here. The poor Austrians, bro. They can never catch a break. They can just never from World War II to World War One to World War Three, bro. They can never catch a break. And with this invasion, right over here, just like so, the Hungarians and Soviet forces are able to open up yet another front. Now, Switzerland, seeing what the Soviets just did and how they invaded a country who was not even involved in this war at all, and they were actually neutral on both sides, they actually didn't get involved with NATO in this universe, prepares their ultimate mountain defense strategy and turns Switzerland yet again into an impenetrable fortress. Because it's the Swiss. Why wouldn't they have an impenetrable forces? Forces? Fortress. Meanwhile, Soviet forces and East German forces begin to push into this area. Now, if you're wondering how does East Germany have this many troops to even be doing this, they don't. That's why I constantly say Soviet forces because Soviet manpower, fun, not really, not really fun. It's never fun. American troops alongside Canadian and Greenlandian troops start to arrive in France and make their way over towards Germany and the Benelux as well. The Benelux are kind of getting touched a little by East Germany and Soviet forces, primarily Soviet forces. And we're going to zoom right on in here to watch the Soviets and the East Germans, primarily, again, the Soviets, touching the Netherlands and Belgium. Also, for those of you who may not know, I am the Sultanate Empire, and I am also friends with Ender M if you come from his Discord server or from his YouTube channel. If you don't, I suggest you go check him out. He is an amazing YouTuber, an amazing, very amazing person. He does what I do, practically better, though. He does it better than me, in my opinion. That's in my opinion. And you may see me in his live streams or in his videos from time to time. Um, so yeah, you never know. But basically, this is what Europe looks like right now. Now, unfortunately, that is all the time we have for this video. I'm Sean's Mapping, or the Sultanate Empire. If you enjoyed today's video, I suggest you go hit the like button beneath the video. If you didn't enjoy the video, you can hit that dislike button beneath the video. I do not mind at all. If you want to be notified or updated of the next time I upload a video or make a post on my channel, you can go ahead and hit that subscribe button and then hit the bell notification icon next to the subscribe button. I'm John's Mapping, or the Sultanate Empire. I hope you beautiful ladies and gentlemen are enjoying the new year and enjoying 2026. I will see all of you beautiful face